Now, the next point that we're going to cover is going to be 6.1, assault movement. This has to do with units that have a red or a yellow square around their movement factors. We're going to fully cover the yellow square movement units here in just a little bit, so we're going to focus on the red ones for now. Assault movement at its basic core is taking and moving and firing. Okay, so as an example, we have a assault capable unit, German squad here. What it means is they can move up to half their movement value and then conduct a fire action. So he has a movement factor of 4. He could move 2 movement points and fire if he wished. At that point, you're going to take and mark him with an assault move, and you do not have to take and conduct that fire action on the same impulse in which you moved. So if he just moved to this hex and had not fired, you would not mark him with a fired marker, and he could actually fire in a later impulse if he wanted, even to include op firing. But once he did fire, you would take and mark him with the fired marker to signify the fact that he'd already completed his fire action. Keep in mind, as I said previously, an assault move is a move, so if he were subjected to fire from enemy units, then they would receive that +1 bonus against it. Now, there are some pretty big penalties for assault movement. You're going to receive a -2 modifier to your firepower, or if it's an ordnance weapon, it's going to be a +1 to hit on the ordnance table. Also, you can't use this to take and enter melee or close assault. So as an example of that, we're going to take our same German squad here. If we move them adjacent to this Belgian squad, he cannot take and spend 2 movement points to move into the hex with the enemy unit, fire, and then have a melee attack. You're not allowed to do that. All right. Now, there's something new in the 5.0 section of the rulebook, and it has to do with assault fire. Assault fire has to do with firing first and then conducting your move action. It has all the same modifiers and penalties and restrictions that apply to assault movement, with a few new exceptions. One, it has to be conducted in the same impulse. So if this unit were conducting an assault fire and he fired, he could not save his move and move in a later impulse. He would have to take and fire and then move. Obviously, because of that, you can't use it to op fire, so you couldn't take and on your opponent's turn, on the enemy's turn, take and fire on them and then move as well. You're not able to do that. Now, the origin hex is going to be marked as spotted if it's degrading or blocking terrain. So let's take as an example here. We're going to take and move him in here into this degrading terrain. And let's say he wants to conduct an assault fire action. He wants to take and move 2 hexes and fire. He'll be marked as usual with the assault move and the fired marker to signify that he has moved and fired, but the hex that he started from would also be marked with a spotted because he fired from that hex. All right. Remember, in lock and load tactical, you are not spotting units, you're spotting hexes. So hexes that have been spotted will remain spotted for the remainder of the turn. So if another unit, your leader or this other squad, were to move into that hex, they would also be spotted at that point. Now, non-assault fire capable units can contribute their firepower, but they're not able to move, and they've got to fire at the same target. So an example of that, we've got 2 German squads here next to each other, and they want to conduct an assault fire action against our little Belgian squad there. They could both fire together. They would total their firepower as normal, giving them a 3. They would be marked with the fired marker, but then the assault fire capable unit could move up to half his movement value at that point, and then obviously be marked with the same type markers as usual. This unit could not move with him. He would have to stay in the hex that he started in. One last thing when it comes to assault fire, it's pretty obvious. You can't do it if your unit isn't on the map yet. So if you have units that are getting ready to enter the map board, they have to actually be on the map to take and conduct a assault fire action. You can't fire from some obscure place off map and then move them onto the board.